All right, I am on board one of the oldest preserved ships that I've ever been on as far as museum ships go. This is the USS Constellation, one of the few remaining pre-Civil War warships built. It was built in 1854, about a few years before the Civil War broke out. It won't sail, it can't sail, because it's 40% original. In fact, you can see here they're trying to do as much as they can to preserve what's already here. The ship is 40% original. USS Constitution over in Boston is about 2% original because, well, they still sail her, so they've had to replace almost everything on the ship. But you have the old stove here that would have been to provide meals for the crew. And this is the main gun deck. I believe they're 20-pounders, if I'm not mistaken, give or take. Barreled meat. Yeah, you've got a barrel of mystery meat here. I'm pretty sure that would have had a high chance of spoilage if back then. Got various bits of food and whatnot. Got a fire truck. Got crackers, which probably would have been soggy. But yeah. You got the cannons, which apparently one of them actually does fire. But yeah, they have blacksmiths that replace parts that are corroded. I'm going to go and walk around this deck first. You've got the ramming rods that would be used to ram the cannonballs in and then clean the cannons. Got the block and tackle systems to hoist the cannons into position. Firing pin. I probably would have taken a good group of guys to take care of moving these suckers. Got the early bilge and fire pumps. It's like a railroad hand car. You'd have to have 4 or 5 guys on one side, 4 or 5 guys on the other, and move it up and down to help draw water from the keel. In fact, I bet that still works, unless they have more modern bilge pump equipment in place. You've got one of the, I forget what this is called. Capstan. You've got the capstan. You twist that around. I guess it would help move ropes and all. Got an early skylight. Got a hoist for cannonballs and or munitions. You've got the captain's cabin. Got the pantry. The office, captain's office. Port washroom. Bet you there'd be a privy there. Got the main area. Yeah. Yeah, so this would be the starboard side washroom. Yeah. Keep up the good work on this. Got the captain's stateroom. I'm just peeking in real quick. They're doing work here. I'm filming. What? Right. I'll cover the top deck last. They be hatched up lads. Get to the bilges and get to your posts. So it's like, well, it looks like Jesse. Ah, yes, I've heard of this quote. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I've heard of that. Seems normal. Oh, I think I got turned around. Am I okay with going this way?
Yeah, sure.
Ah, all right.
Come to.
Hello. So I've got the master's cabin. So this is all crew areas and crew spaces. Paymaster. Surgeon, that's where you'd have the ship's doctor. Have fun operating on somebody back then. Marine lieutenant. or lieutenant, excuse me. Dang, he passed in 1913. Imagine what he would have thought of the steamships from that era. Chaplain, basically the ship's preacher. Got other spaces, probably storage. Fifth lieutenant. Basically where you'd have the officers where they'd gather. Fourth lieutenant. Third lieutenant with the band. Second lieutenant navigator. 1914. Wow. Passed in 1877. That's the executive officer. Educating officer's corpse. So this is how the lower ranking crew would be sleeping. They'd be having hammocks. In fact, I believe some ships in the Royal Navy, I could be wrong on this, but I think some, as recently as maybe 40 or 50 years ago, still had these in use. But don't quote me on it, because I could be wrong. Boatswain, gunner, dispensary. This would be your pharmacy, basically. That's where you'd eat right there. And here's all the crew areas. This is where the crew would sleep, more or less. God, this is amazing. And that's the mast. And you can see, more or less, the forward area of the ship. Yes, I went under the ropes, don't question it. More hatches and hatchways, rope stairs going up and down. Maybe more areas. Yeah. So this is where you'd have the operating room. This would be the ship's hospital, because you've got all the surgical equipment, all of the remedies right in here. That was probably the operating table of what they would have used as such. Probably would have to lash you down so you don't roll off. You can see all the surgical equipment, all the fun they would have had to have. And I'm being sarcastic because they probably would not have had any anesthetic back then. If they did, it would have been very primitive. Oi, what you doing here? I'm just kidding. It's like, get back to your post. Okay, they've got this one blocked off. That's odd. Well, I'm about to do a little bit of scurrying about, eh? Sorry, mate, nothing personal. Oh, that's the keel. Tell me, you know what those are? That's ballast. That's to help keep the ship stable.
Oh, it stays down like that?
That's ballast stone. Yeah, that would be what was used to help keep the ship stable. And that'd be preventing it from tipping over. If that wasn't in there right now, I guarantee you it would tip over. And you've got all of, this is where they'd store the gear. All of the gear. This would be where they store it. Rope / chain locker, more or less. Orlop deck, basically. That's where the masts are going down. That's where they have a few leaks. If any of you guys have seen the movie The Goonies, there's a ship in it more or less from around this area based on a much earlier form of sailing vessel. It was of course built for the movie, it was as a prop, and once filming was done they offered this ship to anybody who'd take it and no one would take it, so it was broken up. It's a shame. Ship's brig. Wonder where the brig is, probably at the back. Yeah, you can see all of the ballast stones used here. Now I believe the planking here is original. But you can see all in here. That's all ballast stone. That would have all been used to keep the ship stable. You can see where the masts would go down. To the very bottom of the ship. Now I believe this is the pipe, these are the pipes for the bilge pump. That would have been what would bail water out in the event of any kind of flooding. Of course, as I'm able to see, they've got more modern bilge pumps in use to keep this thing afloat as best they can. But there would be more areas here, brig and whatnot. So, that means we're heading topside onto the main deck. Here we are back on the cannon deck. And we're going to remember what I was saying about the bilge pumps. You can't see it, but there is one running. Yeah, so evidently they must still use this, give or take, but there's the old fire hoses. So here we are topside, and that'll be where part 2 of this starts. Alright, we are now on the top side of the ship.
Did you have a ration of ice cream, or would you buy it?
So this is the main deck of the ship.
Everyone gets a scoop. Yeah.
Shout out to y'all too. If it weren't for y'all, this ship wouldn't be here.
I just like the fact that it's super
Got where they would load all the cargo and whatnot. Cargo and munitions. Ship's bell. Got all the rigging and whatnot for the masts. Got the crow's nest up there. Forward cannons, as well as a forward hatch. And then you've got the bowsprit, which would have probably had some kind of figurehead. Yep, would have had a figurehead of some sort. And then the ship's anchors, I believe, are right around in here somewhere. Probably what I'm seeing sticking out. And here's downtown Baltimore. Across the way is the I believe, the Chesapeake Bay lightship and the submarine, I think USS Torsk, I believe. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong in more ways than one. So, yeah, there's got canvas here. There's the other 3 masts, which you'll see in a minute.
kind of like they did for the engine room. They would take you down at the end room and say, okay, this line, where does it go, what does it do? If it's leaking, what are you going to do to fix it? And that's pretty much how you do all that. Congratulations.
Here's one of the crewways down to the inside of the ship.
Actually, all 7.
There's what they would use to tie down the ropes with. You got the central mast.
Hello.
And then you've got the aft mast. And there's another capstan. They'd have guys up here moving that. That'd probably be used to raise the anchors and everything else. Now these, I believe, are the tops of the masts. And here's the ship's wheel with probably the original compass. 2 original compasses, actually. Got the upper parts of 2 of the masts. Yeah, so you'd have 2 compasses and that. And then here's the ship's wheel. And that would control the rudder, which is at the aft portion. There's also a Coast Guard cutter and a lighthouse here. Unfortunately, all of that is closed, but you know, it's better than nothing. But there is the lightship, and the sub, and the aquarium across the way as well. I'm not going to be visiting any of those, obviously, due to time. So, yeah. I believe this concludes the walkthrough of the USS Constellation. One of the few remaining intact Civil War era vessels still in existence, apart from a few that have been raised after being sunk. But this is technically the oldest ship I've ever been on. The oldest ship that my friend Jesse has been on is the USS Olympia, which is the oldest steel and or iron warship still afloat. So I may have beat him as far as the oldest ship goes. And this is actually the second Civil War era ship that I've seen. The first, if you could count it as such, is the H.L. Hunley, which is the first submarine to successfully sink an enemy warship in combat. And that's in Charleston. So yeah, I will see you all later.